We're watching the real story of somebody that got abducted by a billionaire.
It all started one day when I was coming out of school. As usual, I saw all my classmates with their expensive backpacks getting inside their fancy cars. Many of them even had a chauffeur. As I walked past them on my way to the bus stop, I could always hear their laughs as they gossiped behind my back. I'm 13 years old and never had any family other than my mom, and she passed away 3 years ago. We never had money, but my mom taught me that the only thing no one would ever take away from me was knowledge. So I studied hard all my life, and that's how I got a scholarship to this fancy school. I was walking to the bus stop. There was a restaurant on that street, and I always smelled the coffee and the cookies. My stomach rumbled. It made me so hungry, but I didn't have money to buy any of that. As I continued walking, I saw a little kitten crossing the street. Cars
she's
passed
such a
just
good
inches
person.
away from it. The kitten crossed to the other side, and I decided to follow it to make sure it was safe. I followed it for a couple of blocks until it turned into an alley and hid inside a trash bin. Well, I thought at least it would be safe there, so I turned around to leave. And that's when I saw a black car parked at the end of the alley. There was a man outside leaning against the car, dressed as a chauffeur. And inside, on the back seat, I saw a man and a woman kissing.
What the?
I learned to mind my own business a long time ago, so I kept on walking.
Probably just leave him
I arrived at
alone.
the bus stop, and after a moment, the car appeared at full speed and stopped abruptly inches away from me. I realized it was the same car as before, just seconds before I heard a door opening and someone pushing me inside onto the back seat. As the car sped up again, I looked at the man sitting next to me. It was actually a handsome older man, around 40 I guessed. He looked at me seriously, but his gaze looked tired and lost. It didn't make me scared, he was somewhat mysterious. And then he asked me sharply, "What do you want?" And that brought me back to reality. "I don't understand," I said. It was true. What do you want in exchange for keeping the secret? He asked. What secret? I asked. He got closer to me and scanned me from head to toes. "I see," he said. "I know this little game," he added. And
because she saw what they were doing in the
"Perkins,
car.
to the mall." I didn't want to ask any more questions, but that didn't mean I didn't have them. Who was this man? Who did he think I was? What secret was he talking about?
Oh my
Suddenly,
gosh.
the car stopped, and the chauffeur opened the door and pulled me out. The hand of the handsome man appeared from inside the car with a credit card in it. Get her whatever she wants.
Hit that like button if you want a credit card. We can buy whatever you want.
The chauffeur grabbed the card and took me inside the mall by the arm. And as I stepped in, my mind went blank. I had never been inside a place this big. Lights, shops, people coming and going, playrooms.
Yeah, whatever
this
she
had to
wants.
be heaven, and I had to be dead. But the chauffeur was still pushing me, so I pulled my arm away and told him to stop. He looked at me and said, Well, what?" I asked. "What do you want?" he asked. "I don't understand."
What would you
I
get,
said.
guys?
It was true, again. And he said, "It's not the first time we do this. The boss knows what you all girls want for the silence." The boss?
Jeez.
The silence? Who were these people? I had no idea, and things
this
were
is
happening
dodgy.
really fast. But I wasn't stupid, and I wasn't going to let my only chance get away. I didn't want to spend a second, so I went directly to the bookstore.
Fair
I always had
play.
to borrow the books from school from the public library, so this was my chance to get my own. The man paid, and we went back outside. The handsome man from the car rolled down the window and said, "Are we good?" I nodded.
This person just got an unlimited credit card and only bought books. Did I get a PlayStation, Xbox, PC, or a load of clothes, load of games, new iPad? But you know what? This girl's a good girl. She got books. But what's going to happen next? Surely something's going to happen.
The bizarre situation I just lived, but the fact that for the first time in my life, I had new books. And then I heard it again. The car was coming back.
It's
towards
coming
me.
back.
You have got to be kidding me.
Oh,
The
no, I knew it
chauffeur
wasn't
pulled me
over. I
back
knew
inside
it
the car,
wasn't
and the boss
over.
asked, annoyed, "Is this a joke? You spent $200 on books?" $200? I asked. "I didn't know they were so expensive. I'm sorry," I said, and offered the books back to him. But he just stayed there and looked at me. Then he looked at the driver and back at me. "Take us back to the mall, Perkins," he shouted. Then he got really close to me and said, "Okay, this is how it's going to be. We're going to go inside the mall again, and you're going to spend real money on real things. You hear me?" I couldn't understand why he meant it as a threat, but I nodded in silence. At least I got to keep my new books. As we arrived back at the mall, we got out of the car. He took the books away from me, threw them inside the car, and said, "Leave them. You'll get them later." We went back inside the mall, and again I was amazed by the amount of information and different noises. He took me directly to the jewelry store.
Jewelry, that's so
"Pick."
expensive.
He sounded like he was in a hurry, but I was definitely not going to choose anything from that store. I looked at those expensive things as they were glowing, but did not dare to touch
Probably
any.
tens
"What
of
is
thousands.
it?" the man said impatiently. I sighed and answered, "I live in a foster home and share my room with 7 other orphans. There's no chance any of this will survive there."
That's
the man
very
took a step
true.
back and scanned me again. "I don't understand," he said. I assumed he was referring to the school uniform. How could an orphan pay for that fancy school? My mom said that knowledge was something no one would ever take away from me, so she told me to study as hard as I could. I have a scholarship, I said. Wise woman, he said, and then added,
got
still,
an
there
award.
must be something you want. Well, honestly, I'm a bit hungry, and I've never seen this many options before, I said as we entered the food court. What do you want to eat? He asked. I didn't have any idea what to choose. I knew nothing about this food, so I just said, I will eat whatever you choose. A tiny smile appeared on his face. It was imperceptible. He walked to a specific place
He knows
and said,
exactly
Here.
what he
I
wants.
had trouble reading the sign. Shawarma? I said. Best in town, he added. I smiled as I saw him eating that strange food. He didn't look at all like that angry man from before, and he was right. The food
maybe
was
he is a
amazing.
nice guy.
After we finished, we continued to walk through the mall. I was stunned with all that merchandise in the different stores. We passed in front of a place that had neon lights
Arcade!
everywhere, and the
Let's
music
go.
sounded loud. There were mostly kids inside. They all looked like they were having
Hit the subscribe
fun. What's
button.
this? I asked.
If you would
You've
go
never
to
seen
the
a video
arcade
game
as
salon
well.
before? He replied. I denied in silence, still dazzled with all that. How do you play this? I asked. He looked around and
Dude,
hesitated.
get the driver
then he
car.
said, I don't know. We got inside. He bought some special coins to put in the machines and gave them to me. I walked to the first game I saw. It was a shooting game. I put the coins in the machine and lifted the gun. He looked at me in silence. But a few moments later, as he saw how much I sucked at the game, he almost ripped the gun out of my hand and said, No, 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 you're missing everything. He then started to shoot at everything with an
my
ability that was not
gosh.
human.
He's
I
a
stood
pro
there watching
gamer.
him play. It was so much fun. This was in fact a very strange man. After a while, the screen showed the words, Congratulations, you've won. And he
Jeez,
gave
he's
the gun back
good.
to me. That's how it's done, he said. I looked at the screen and said, Look, 2 players. He hesitated again, but then agreed. We started playing the game together and we lost track of time. You're getting really good at this, he said. After we won a hard fight against the opponent, we even high-fived. He continued to buy coins and we were there for a couple of hours.
This
When we
still
left the
bit
mall, it
of a
was already
weird
dark.
story.
Well, I said, Thank you for this day. I have to go. But he got instantly serious. Wait, he said. I'll take you home. I got in the car and hugged my books again. He looked at me and said, Your mother really was a wise woman. When I got out of the car and he left, I thought I had dreamt it all. What a strange
That
day.
is
No one
weird.
would believe me if I told them. I couldn't sleep much that night, so I used the time to study for the upcoming test the next day with my new books. As we were doing the exam, I saw that my classmate Tanya was having problems with it. She was writing things and erasing them many times. We were
Oh,
close to
no.
the end of the
She's
period,
not
so I got
revised.
closer to her and let her copy from my exam.
Dude,
When
you
we
don't
got
let
out,
people
she came to me
copy.
and thanked me. We walked together to the cafeteria talking, but when we arrived,
she's making
Andrea,
friends.
the popular girl in my class, stood in front of us and looked
Oh,
at Tanya
no.
with disapproving eyes. I looked to the floor, ashamed and somehow scared of Andrea. Are you coming to the party tonight? Andrea asked Tanya.
Is
I
that-
don't know, she replied.
She's got
Are
the
you
same
coming,
hair
Sheila?
color as the
I
man.
looked up puzzled. No one ever invited me to those fancy parties. And as I
Imagine
looked at Andrea, I could tell
they're
she was
related.
not happy with the idea. Sorry, I have to study, I said. And Andrea said, See, she's not interested in hanging with us. She's a smart girl. But Tanya said, She is smart and she saved my life today. I think I'll study tonight too. Andrea's
Ooh,
jaw
she's
dropped.
making
She was clearly
friends.
indignated. She took my new books away from me and said, Oh, right. Smart Sheila and her new books. I wonder where you got the money to buy them. Andrea, stop it, Tanya said. She took the books from her
Ooh,
and
she's
gave them back
defending
to
her.
me.
That's
Why
nice.
are you being such a jerk? She added. I was amazed at how Tanya stood up for me. I was such a chicken. I could never stand up for myself. But Andrea took it even further.
Oh,
she grabbed
no.
my shirt and whipped
Jeez.
its pocket. I was in so much trouble now. I didn't have the money to buy a new shirt.
Oh
I
my
rushed
gosh, she's
to the
a
bathroom to
bully.
cry.
We hate
Tanya
bullies.
got inside after me and told me not to pay attention to her. She said that Andrea was miserable and that I didn't deserve what she was doing. As I was walking to the bus stop
Oh,
after
no.
school, a handsome old man stopped by with his fancy car. I was crying and I hated when other people saw me cry. He realized anyway and
How
asked
does
me
he
what
always
was
just
wrong.
keep on
Damn it.
appearing?
I tried to cover my face, but he got out of the car and grabbed me by my shoulders. He looked at my ripped shirt. What happened? He said. Nothing, I slipped. I lied. I've heard that one before, he said, and added, You want to shoot some people? I looked at him
Back
and
to the
smiled.
arcade, baby.
Absolutely, I said. We went to the mall and the man bought a lot of coins. We went back to
Whoa.
the shooting game and played for
could
hours.
play for
I hadn't noticed how good
years.
it was to release stress. I was having fun for the first time in my life and I didn't even know the man's name. We became so skilled at that game that we even started to have an audience.
Nice.
Everyone cheered and clapped as we passed
They
levels
are
and got
pro
the top record.
gamers.
And then we went to eat shawarma. I laughed as I told him I felt tired, like it had been me running through the minefields and not the game characters. He smiled for a second, but then said, Are you going to tell me what happened today now? I sighed as I remembered Andrea.
I forgot.
She was a horrible person. There's a girl in my class who makes my life a living hell, I said. Why? He asked. But I looked at him with irony and said, You really have to ask? Because I'm poor, of course. And what did you do? He asked. But I replied, there's nothing I can do. I can lose my scholarship if I get in trouble. But to my surprise,
so she's
he
got to be
said,
careful.
that's the best lie I've heard this year. I'm not lying, I replied. But he looked at me intensely and said, if you don't stand up for yourself, no one will. When I was young, I was the smallest in my class, and I was vulnerable and shy. Everyone made fun of me, and it only ended when I started defending myself. Trust me on this. You have to stand up for yourself, or you will get walked all over. I stood silent. I couldn't imagine this powerful man as a shy kid. I nodded, and then he took me back home. I was still a bit scared as I saw Andrea in school the next day. But when she started to make fun of me at the cafeteria in front of everyone, I thought about the man's advice. I stood up and went straight to her table to confront her. She got up and told me to go away, but instead, I took her orange juice and dumped it on her head. She started to scream and tried to grab my hair, but I dodged her and grabbed hers instead. I pushed her head to the table and told her to stop messing with me. Then I let her go. She stood up, looked at me, but said nothing. She turned around and rushed out of the cafeteria. All the kids there started to clap their hands.
Bully.
I felt relieved, but it didn't last long. A teacher got inside the cafeteria and sent me to the principal's office.
I think she may have taken it too far.
I was in so much trouble, but against all odds, I felt good. The man was right. This had to end, and I was ready to face the consequences.
But why did she lose her scholarship?
As I got to the principal's office, Andrea was already there, waiting too, drenched in orange juice.
No.
The principal called us both inside his office and demanded an explanation. But before any of us could speak, I heard noises outside the office. And when the door opened, I saw the last person I could have imagined there. It was the handsome rich man. Andrea looked up too and sighed as she saw him. They exchanged glances for a moment, and I realized at that precise moment, he was Andrea's father. Mr. Anderson, please come in.
Dude, I said.
But when he looked at me, he frowned. I denied in silence. He looked at Andrea and then back at me, and I swear I saw him trying to hide a smile. The principal explained the situation, and he told Andrea's father that if he wanted to kick me out of school, he could certainly do it. There's no need to do that, he answered. But the spoiled Andrea complained. Shut up, Andrea, her father said, and added, you probably had it coming. Get out of here. Tell Perkins to drive you home. Andrea was about to say something, but he looked at her menacing. She gave me one of her killing looks and then left. Then he told the principal that it was okay, that I was probably under a lot of stress. But I didn't like this at all.
Dude,
I was so
she's
angry at
so
him.
lucky.
He was a hypocrite. He was Andrea's father. I stood up and said, I don't need you to defend me. I must stand up for myself, remember? The man stood silent, surprised. I looked at the principal and said, I'm sorry for what I did. I take full responsibility. Andrea had been bothering me for years, and I got fed up. But I understand this wasn't the best way to react.
Yeah,
she
went too far.
Excuse me, and I left. I went to my locker and grabbed my new books. If I was going to be kicked out of school, at least I would take them with me. I walked to the bus stop.
Is she going to stay in the school?
I didn't want to see the man, but I kind of hoped he would appear. But he didn't. I let 3 buses pass, but he never showed up. I wanted to see him. I demanded an explanation. But when the 4th bus came, I got in and went home feeling like the loneliest person in the world.
Do you think she'll ever see him again, the billionaire?
I didn't get much sleep that night, and when I woke up the next morning, I felt terribly sick. Perhaps it was me being a chicken again. I didn't want to go back to school ever again. The director of the foster home called the school and told them I was sick. I stayed home for the next 3 days, wondering if I had done everything after all. Andrea's father seemed like 2 completely different men. He was so kind with me and so mean to his own daughter.
Yes, maybe that's why she bullies people, because he's mean to her.
They told me I had a visitor. When I got up to see who it was, I found Mr. Anderson at the door. I was still mad at him, but I was relieved to see him.
What's he gonna say?
We went to the garden and sat on a bench. He told me he was sorry for not coming to see me sooner. He wanted to make some arrangements first. What arrangements? I asked, and he said, adoption arrangements. What? I looked at him in silence. I was stunned. He said, you don't need the scholarship anymore. If you agree, of course.
Dude,
I thought for a moment.
They're gonna be sisters.
I want to be Andrea's sister, I said. Well, perhaps I was being overdramatic. I know, but he laughed. I said, don't laugh. I'm still mad at you. You can't solve everything with money. He got instantly serious and said, I know. I had a talk with Andrea last night. I didn't realize what a terrible father I'd been until I met you. You reminded me of what having a good time means, and I felt guilty that I wasn't sharing that with her.
They've all learned lessons.
It means to be a father, and I want to continue doing it with both of you. Wow.
Billionaire now.
Really good speeches. I smiled. I don't even know your full name, I said. And he answered, and I don't know yours, but we have the rest of our lives to get to know each other.
No way! That's incredible. More videos on screen here. Click to watch another story. I'll see you over there.